Okay, great, good stuff. So we've been dealing with trying to find the cost of just buying shares, and the cost of when we sell shares, forgive me, what the base cost is of those shares, and we've done that. Here we have another scenario which this is an event that typically happens in that market, where people will exchange their shares, or when a company takes over another company, sometimes they might issue shares to the existing shareholders in that company they're taking over, in effect causing something of a capital gain. But normally, until you actually dispose the shares, because it would be a bit unfair that you would have exchanged, or you would have received shares from a company taking over the company you currently have shares in, and now have to pay a tax on because your shares have gone up in value. So typically this exchange is called a paper-for-paper exchange, and as there are no cash proceeds, the gain is deferred. I'm going to kind of explain, really, the cost of the cost of the old shares become the cost of the new shares. The cost hasn't gone away. The cost is the cost. It's just kind of dealing with it. And I mean, I remember teaching, when I was teaching, talking about land, and we're dealing with selling bits of land, and even to do with rollover relief with paintings and things like that. The same principle I want to apply, and I remember highlighting that this principle kind of comes in here as well. So typically, if it was just a straightforward share-for-share exchange, we would just be keeping the cost of the new shares at the base cost of the old shares, right? The cost of the old shares is still the cost. But sometimes you have some kind of split. So because typically you had ordinary shares, someone now comes along and someone could give you now, preference shares and ordinary shares. So this is why I was talking about land. We must now allocate this separately, or someone can give you cash and ordinary shares, something along those lines. And cash, preference shares, and ordinary shares, we need to allocate them accordingly. But it's still based on value. That's the big word, value. Right? So let's see where we're going here. So the whole point here, again, is to do this over the market value at the point of takeover. Let me show you what I'm going to try and do is teach this conceptually, so that from what we've been doing, and you'll see that once you get the principle, it is actually straightforward. I'm going to use that concept of land again that we were using again. It's the same one, it works all the time. So you acquired some shares, 2,300 of them, for 29,540. Right. Now, you got taken over, right, by this company, ZPLC, in May. And what happened was you received 5 ordinary shares and 1 preference share. That's what you got. So someone literally split your land up into 5 ordinary shares and 1 preference share. They are not the same. I mean, they've just split your land up. But if they were all shares, they'll just be all the same. But someone's literally said, I'll give you 5 ordinary shares and 1 preference share for each share. So in effect, they've given you, I'll just split it like this. Someone's given you 5 ordinary shares at, of course, £5.20 each, right? And 1 ordinary share at £2.80. I mean, this is for each of your shares. So you could, I mean, just to show you conceptually what I really want to try and do, I want to just explain to you if it's a matter of value. I could have calculated it over because I'm giving you 5 ordinary shares for each share you have. So I could then go ahead and multiply this by 2,300, multiply this by 2,300 to get the total value, but I don't. It's just about value. Here I have the total value here of this 5 times 5 here, 5 times 5.20, 5 times £5.20 is £26, and here I have £2.80. So in effect, what you now have is a ratio of 26 to £2.80. So 26 over, if I want to know what the cost is of this area, right, times this, if I want to know what the cost, because it's all about cost, isn't it? What's the cost of this whole new area now, of this new acquisition of this area here, right? So the cost of this area, doesn't matter what I'm given. I'm given basically 5 ordinary shares times 2,300, and I'm going to tell you what that cost is based on value. The cost is 26 over 28.8 times 29,540. And the cost here is £2.80 over 28.8 times 29,540. So I received 5 ordinary shares times 2,300. That's what it says. It says you get 5 ordinary shares in Z for each share you have. So that means you now have 5 times 2,300. You now have 11,500 shares in Z. And you have 1 for every share. So you have 1 times 2,300. So you have 2,300 preference shares in Z. So what does that mean? In terms of cost, my 11,500 shares, in terms of cost, my 11,000, so I'll just put number here, forgive me, number, and I'll put here cost. My 11,500 shares cost this thing, right? Because it's based on value. 26 over 26 divided by 28.8, which is that, times 29540. So they cost 26,668. And the preference shares of 2,300 preference shares, I mean, actually, I'd probably put it separately because they are different shares. I mean, that's that, and that's that. I could do that here. Preference number 2,300 cost this minus 29,540. You have here 2871. So that's kind of the principle I think that I want you to pick up in dealing with this, is to not base it on numbers. I talked about this. This isn't about 3 acres, 10 acres. These are different types of shares anyway. So it must be based on value, right? And so I have here this ratio of. I could have done this by saying, I will say 26 times. If you like, I will say I'll find the value of each share. So I could have said, okay, I have 5 ordinary shares at £5.20. And therefore multiply 5 times, it's £5.20 each, 5 times 2,300 times £5.20. I could have done that and then based the value on those larger amounts, right? I could have done that, but it's just based on value. I've just done it based on a 1-to-1, 5-to-1. Well, when I say 5-to-1, 26 to 20. I prefer doing it this way so you can really see where it's stemming from. But if you wanted to look at it another way, you could say, well, oh yeah, what you're really saying here is you're saying 5 times 2,300 times £5.20, and you have here £2.80 times 2,300. So if I do that, what I now have is 5 times 2,300 times £5.20, which gives me 59,800. And here I have here £2.80 times 2,300, £2.80 times 2,300, which gives me 6,440. So I will split this up, therefore, on the ratio 5,9,800 over 5,9,800 plus 6,440 times. I'm looking for cost, 29,540, and here I will have 6,440 divided by 5,9,800. 6,440 times 29,540. My task is to find the cost. Right, that's what I'm trying to do. And you'll see that you'll get exactly the same thing. Cool. Right. Yes, so now the question goes on to say that you then sell 10,000 ordinary shares. So you see why it's necessary for us to split them up. You then sell 10,000 of these shares, and we go back to what we always done. 10,000 from here. So that must be, in terms of cost, it must be 10,000 over 11,500 times 26,668, right? Because I'm trying to get 10,000. It's all share pool, all AVCO. 10,000 of these shares from here. I sold them for 78,000. So my selling price, I know, I'll keep that to the side, no problem. I'm just trying to find the cost. That's the problem here. The issue is cost. What is the cost? So the cost is of these shares 10,000 divided by 11,500 times 26,668 which is 23,189, or well, 190 if you round up, and therefore your gain is 78,000 minus that, which is 54,810. This is a video, so I can afford to be a little bit all over the place, but you just have to make sure you have this nicely written. So please go through this principle. It's important to get the mechanics of this right, and just practice this a bit more. But that's the principle. Cool, great stuff, and I will see you in the next video.